Orlando, and this is an area where not only are the prices starting to drop, the inventory is shooting through the roof. And now officially home values in Orlando are dropping down 2.6% year over year.
Orlando's housing market is collapsing with contract cancellations hitting 19.4%, one of the highest rates in the nation. You have to understand is that for the large part of the past year and large part of the last 36 months, we've had interest rates in the 6.88 to around 7% range, insurance premiums topping $7,500, and mortgage rates doubling to 7% have priced out thousands of buyers as inventory for condos has increased by 80%. We really have a lot of people that have wanted to leave high-tax states, lockdown states, crime-infested states, but the inflation, I think, is the biggest threat. The governor is falling apart as America's tourist capital transforms from boomtown to cautionary tale. This isn't the Orlando you've been promised. 14,000 active listings on the market in the metro. You can see that that's the highest level of supply and inventory going back at least 10 years. It's 50% above the long-term norm. In 2019, Orlando's housing market exhibited predictable trends. Median sale prices hovered just under $280,000. Inventory tracked closely with demand, and homes rarely sparked bidding wars. Buyers could negotiate, take their time with inspections, and secure 30-year fixed mortgages at rates around 4%. Migration from the Northeast and Midwest added roughly 1,000 new residents each week, but the market remained balanced, where most neighborhoods featured modest single-family homes and condos, with prices that kept ownership within reach for middle-income families. The investors invaded Orlando in other parts of Florida during the pandemic. You could see the big spike in investor purchases and now the big collapse. Then the pandemic hit in spring 2020 and Orlando transformed overnight. Because remote work eliminated geographic constraints and workers from New York, Chicago, and Boston poured in, flushed with cash, bidding wars became routine, with agents describing listings that drew a dozen offers within hours. The median sale price shot past $320,000 by early 2021, then surged to $390,000 by summer. 2022, a leap of nearly $110,000 in just 2 years. Mortgage rates under 3% poured fuel on the fire. So, there's less buyers in the market, less excited people willing to put up their cash. Investors and flippers joined the chase, snapping up condos and single-family homes as new construction couldn't keep up, and builders reported waiting lists stretching months. Brokerage meetings turned into celebrations of record deals as brokers hyped Orlando as crash-proof, with local radio ads promising instant equity and urging buyers to act before being priced out forever. But beneath the frenzy, warning signs flickered. By mid-2022, the average Orlando household needed to spend nearly 45% of its income on housing to buy at the median price. Affordability slipped further out of reach, setting the stage for the collapse that would devastate thousands of families and investors who believed the boom would never end. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications. I'm breaking down every development as this Orlando collapse unfolds. And so you've got inflation that's taken place. You've got way more expensive houses in general, and interest is way more than it was in 2019. Here's where Orlando's crisis becomes a story about insurance chaos destroying a market that mortgage rates alone couldn't break. Insurance agents spent 2023 and 2024 fielding frantic calls as premium notices arrived with eye-watering numbers. $7,500, $9,200. Even $12,000 a year for a standard single-family home. Because 7 Florida insurers, including FedNet, St. John's, and Southern Fidelity, went insolvent in just over a year. More than 400,000 policies were canceled or transferred, leaving carriers that remained to pull back sharply. The state's insurer of last resort, Citizens. Property insurance became the fallback for thousands. Because Citizens began reducing its policy count, shifting more than 330,000 customers to thinly capitalized private carriers through forced depopulation. These new policies came with steep premiums and limited coverage, often excluding hurricane or water damage entirely, making them essentially worthless for the very disasters Florida homeowners fear most. In Orange County, non-renewal notices hit nearly 3% of all policies each year, with the hardest blows landing in zip codes like 32789 and 32822, where entire neighborhoods suddenly found themselves uninsurable or facing deductibles over $10,000 because buyers under contract routinely saw their quoted premiums double or triple before closing, and mortgage underwriters now required binding insurance commitments before approving loans. Deals collapsed when agents couldn't secure a binder, sometimes days before the moving truck arrived. By early 2025, internal brokerage reports tied 12 to 18% of all contract cancellations directly to insurance failures, with some zip codes topping 25%. For many Orlando families, the dream of home ownership didn't die at the negotiating table or the inspection. It died when the insurance bill arrived and revealed the true cost of living in a state where climate risk and carrier exodus have made coverage financially impossible. In April 2024, a retired couple from Maitland signed a contract on a single-story ranch listed at $540,000 with a $15,000 deposit representing most of their liquid savings. Because their agent assured them the numbers penciled out and the initial insurance quote of just under $4,000 fit the budget, they set a closing date and started packing. 3 weeks before closing, the insurance agent informed them that the carrier had withdrawn from Florida effective immediately. The only replacement policy available came in at $9,200, a year with a $10,000 hurricane deductible and water damage excluded. Because the lender refused to clear the loan without full coverage, the couple scrambled, calling every agency in the city as each quote came back higher or was denied outright due to the home's roof age. With the insurance contingency period expired, they faced two impossible choices: accept the unaffordable policy and stretch their fixed income to the breaking point, or walk away and forfeit the $15,000 deposit. They chose to back out, but the seller refused to release the escrow, citing a missed deadline. Mediation dragged on for weeks before the couple lost the full deposit, erasing years of financial security. Local agents report dozens of similar cases since the start of 2024, most involving older buyers blindsided by insurance shocks late in the process. We are in for a 6 to 18-month run of declining mortgage rates. Mortgage rates climbing from under 3% to over 7% by early 2024 added another crushing layer because a $400,000 home that once required a monthly principal and interest payment of about $1,685 now demands nearly $2,700, a 60% jump in just 2 years. The math no longer works for thousands of families. Lenders tightened standards, wary of approving loans for applicants already stretched by rising insurance and property taxes, and first-time buyers found themselves locked out completely. By early 2025, the mood inside Orlando's top brokerages had shifted to outright alarm. In May, over 30% of pending deals collapsed before reaching the closing table, a figure that dwarfed the previous high of 19% set during the post-recession years. Because nearly 1 in 3 contracts was falling apart week after week, senior brokers described chaos where lenders balked at ever-widening appraisal gaps, refusing to bridge the $25,000 or $30,000 difference between contract and appraised value. One veteran agent with 3 decades in Orange County real estate put it bluntly, "I've never seen this many walkaways. Most are due to insurance. Either the property can't be covered, or the premium comes in so high it kills the deal on the spot." In April, the cancellation rate hit 19.4%, compared to a national average of just over 14%. By June, zip codes 3, 2789, 32822, and 32837 top 25% failure rates. The governor spent years celebrating Florida's real estate boom and touting the state as a refuge from high taxes. He now faces a crisis in Orlando that threatens not just the housing market, but the entire regional economy. Because state legislators passed insurance reforms aimed at keeping carriers from fleeing, but failed to address the fundamental problem of climate risk. Premiums continue to climb, and coverage continues to shrink. The governor's response has been to blame trial lawyers, insurance fraud, and assignment of benefits abuse for the carrier exodus. But those explanations ring hollow for families losing deposits and retirees watching their equity evaporate. By mid-2025, Orlando's housing supply surged with active listings up nearly 80% for condos and more than a third for single-family homes compared to the year before. Condo listings alone topped 3,500 units, the highest since before the pandemic. Builders who once raced to keep up with demand now find themselves with rows of unsold homes. Because projects slated for completion in 2024 were quietly paused or shelved. A leaked email from a Leonard spokesperson described the company's Orlando pipeline as overstocked and undercontracted, citing a 40% drop in new reservations since the start of the year. Dr. Horton's regional office, deep incentives, mortgage rate buy-owns, free upgrades, even cash at closing to move excess inventory that drew fewer takers each month. What really concerns me is how Orlando's crash is becoming a warning for the rest of the country. The same pattern of insurance chaos, elevated mortgage rates, and buyer retreat now plays out across Texas and Arizona. In Texas, contract cancellations surged to 22%, nearly 1 in 5 deals collapsing before closing. Investor purchases in Phoenix fell 36% year over year, the sharpest drop since 2015, as institutional buyers slashed acquisitions by more than a third in both Dallas and Austin. Because analysts point to rising insurance costs, stagnant rents, and uncertainty about future appreciation, the contagion spreading from Florida isn't limited to coastal markets. It's redefining what constitutes a safe real estate investment anywhere in the Sunbelt Belt. Subscribe so you don't miss the next deep dive and comment. Can Orlando recover, or are we watching a permanent repricing?